I think the worst thing you could do is just get stuck in your lane, you know? This is what I do. I'm meticulous. I'm the best in the business. That's not me. Ed Roth said it. Big mess, big success. Let's get dirty. My friend Ken, he's a car guy. I've known him from way back, and he called me about this new project.
Welcome to the Orange Empire Railroad Museum.
Yeah, I'm all about new projects.
Man, if I got something for you, bud.
Ken's been telling me about this train museum he's a member of, so when he called me in, I didn't know what to expect. When you say museum, I'm thinking about like a room with, you know, maybe little trains in it. Look at this place. It's like a whole environment.
It really is.
I met Ken a while back at a car show dedicated to the art and life of Big Daddy Roth, and we've been friends ever since.
I'm an animation director for animated films and volunteer here at the Orange Empire Railroad Museum. There's something about being in the film industry or being in animation that makes you train crazy.
This is like a real old-fashioned railway.
Yeah. Oh, and just tons of projects, tons of trains, streetcars.
Signs, the freaking building.
It's a big toy box for rail fans and railroad guys. I wanted to bring Ian in and show him around, and before we took him to show him the project, I just wanted to whet his appetite. So I've got my buddy Ken over here, who's a huge fan of the show,
Right
which
on.
I figure I'd warn you first.
Okay, so it's Ken and Ken.
Ken and Ken, yeah,
Double trouble.
we're a franchise.
Okay, hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
You know, Ken can give him like the best tour of the property. And he is the guy to show him around, have some fun, and then we'll show Ian the project.
And what's this run on, coal?
No, this is just our little electric cart
no
here.
rails on this one.
No bells or whistles on this
I'm
one.
more familiar with rubber tires.
Yes,
so
yes. Well, no, and now you're going to get familiar with the rails.
This place is sort of like Disneyland, but with a private behind-the-scenes tour. I thought I came out here to look at a car project, and all of a sudden I'm getting schooled on every form of train concept there is.
Before they had hearse and stuff to go into the cemetery, this is what would take your departed into the cemetery.
What a way to start a tour with somebody's last ride.
Yeah.
I understand trains, right? But these guys are like super rail fans, and they know everything about everything. Oh man, so this is a crane that's a train. It's one thing to have a collection, but the fact here is that everything works. Oh, it's on.
And there we have, well, our lights are on now.
It's like a giant model railroad, if you will. Look at all this stuff. This is my kind of place. They even got some shop hounds. Look at this.
Yes, those are our...
The quality control. I can see he's already checking us out.
Yeah, he's
We're
on
clear.
sure everything's all right.
We're
with it.
accredited. We have a history with K9s. Oh man, I've done a couple big truck projects in the past, and I don't know what you're thinking about with these, but they are right up my alley. Something tells me we ain't seen nothing yet.
No, we got something for you. This is our other project, the 508 from San Diego.
1937. No wonder they want to make America great again. What do I have to do to this one? Chop the top? You want to lower it a little? Oh man, look at this thing. Whoa, this is super old. It's crazy cool.
What do you think of that?
Unreal, it's like a giant toy train.
Yeah. Well, this is like the Ward Kimball collection. Ward was one of the 9 old men at Disney. He was like one of the great animators and directors they had over there when they first started. He also got Disney into trains back in the 30s, and that's why there are trains at Disneyland, and we have examples of that here. This Chloe is actually a full custom garage type build. He did to this what you do to cars.
These guys are fanatics, and they definitely want to immerse me in the entire rail experience.
But this isn't really the reason we brought you here, bud. I need you, so come on with me.
Finally, all the suspense has led up to this.
What do you think?
That's right up my alley. I mean, I don't know if you heard about it, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is the iconic classic Ford pickup truck, you know, model AA, the bigger truck, and why it's in a train museum is beyond me. Looking to get out of the train business and into the hot rod truck business.
Yeah, well, you know,
Perfect.
I finally had a car project in the barn.
It doesn't look like a complete truck from this vantage point.
Well, it was a complete truck when we rolled it in here. It had
Okay.
everything.
Oh,
I
I
mean, it's
see.
all here in
and this-
pieces. We just came to a point where we needed Ian.
I mean, it's not too far gone for sure. I work with much rougher things. This is right in my reign, man. It's totally
Yeah, but
cool.
the thing is, dude,
Yeah.
we want to make this a train. We want to make this a rail truck. We want to put it on the tracks.
Hey, I think it could happen.
I mean, it's not a hot rod, like 4 wheels and out you go. This is such a one-off and such a weirdie. And I'm like, nobody can do this but Ian.
So what's the gimmick? So you need like another
Train wheels.
train wheels
We gotta
on
put-
the pickup truck.
Yeah.
Like the little engine that could? I think I can. This isn't a restoration by any
No,
means.
no, no, no. This
is
needs to
gonna
look like
need-
it sat out in the Nevada desert for the past 90 years.
You pretty much want a rail car that acts like a flatbed truck.
Absolutely. I don't have to worry about Ian because I know I just, here's the welder, here's the grinder, I'm gonna go make cartoons, bye. Right?
That concept is awesome. I mean, I love the idea. I just don't know how the heck I'm gonna do it.
I'm not worried. There's actually a picture somewhere that we're gonna dig up. We're on the hunt,
Okay.
but that'll be pretty much your only template.
Okay, it's a first, that's all I'm saying. I'm gung-ho. I could, shoot from the hip. But,
You need a challenge. You can't just keep these hot rods and hopping around, you know. And if you're worried, the exit's right there.
Right. He's the answer, man. Okay. Now I get it. I'm called in because the impossible needs to be made possible. All aboard for the full custom train build. We'll see how this pans out. Usually when I see a project, thinking 10 steps ahead of what I'm about to do, we're opening these doors and I'm drawing a blank.
Good morning, Grizzly Flats, huh?
We can get this thing out of the way, then we'll have plenty of room to get in and get the bed off.
I don't know if we can, but you can.
The awesome part about working in this train museum is you get the full hands-on, behind-the-scene access. It's just super heavy duty.
Yeah.
It's like, why does the door need to be that strong? Give it a little juice and let her warm up. They're letting me try everything out. Yeah, I gotta say, I never expected to ever drive a train, but here we are. My brain's been spinning, man. It's a pretty major task, to put a truck on the tracks. It's very clear that that axle doesn't fit. So just like you back half a race car, you cut the back of the chassis off.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna do the same thing with this. As if you were tubbing a car, we're gonna narrow the frame rails and do major surgery on the axle.
I was really, really pleased that he didn't flinch. He didn't do this. We didn't know what we were going to get from me when we showed it to him because he wasn't really prepped all the way. It just pulled him, and I was so happy to see that.
In simplest terms, that truck is this wide and the tracks are that wide.
Get the Sawzall out, rock and roll. When I was on the hunt for this truck, I would look at a couple of trucks. And the owners of the trucks would be like, so you want to cut my truck up and make it into a train? Get out of my yard. It's a no-holds-barred thing. And we're not restoring an old truck. That's not what we're here for. We need a functional rail truck.
Cut through here and here, narrow it, and then just like when you're boxing a frame for a V8 engine or something, plate this right through. That ain't going anywhere.
I knew that once he started, we were in really, really good hands because he immediately went to the old hot rod stuff, boxing the frame and trimming everything down. It's hot rodding, but it's also railroading.
The goal for me, because I'm a truck guy, right, not a train guy,
Yeah.
I want it to be a truck with train wheels in the back. That way your engine, trans, and axle, drive shaft is all Model A. If you can locate the wheel and axle set you think's appropriate for this,
Sure.
We can get started.
Yeah, no problem, man. We'll take care of it.
We are not building your average train, This place is an awesome museum. We're gonna build something in line with the caliber of stuff they have, like a full custom rail truck. Let's get dirty. So, it's 5, 15. We need to narrow this thing 15 inches. You figure a truck like this, 1928, and it's 2018, that's 90 years old. Some people might get nervous. This might be the cringe moment. The only way to get started is to cut it up. We don't have a chassis jig, so I'm gonna set up something that's as square and frame-worthy as possible. This frame jig would never be adequate for a race car or even a street car, but it doesn't need to steer, it's on rails, so it's gonna work. The main challenge here is just keeping the thing square and attaching it as it was where it wasn't. It's exactly what it was, it's just narrower. This was the easy part. The challenge is still on the horizon. After my first task has been accomplished, there's nothing like a little criticism to step things up. Check this out. A little different than the typical hot rod project. It looks like a truck, but it's actually a train. This is interesting. I'm not hearing a word of opposition. I guess they're okay with it. Speak of the devil, here he is.
You just got here, come on.
Yeah, well, that's
How
what
cool
I'm
is
saying.
this?
We're gonna bust this right out.
Beautiful, man.
Little nip and
really,
tuck.
really slick. This is from the State Railroad Museum. There's the truck, buddy. Is that cool?
That is freaking cool.
And you've
Whoa,
already done.
Look at that. That's nuts.
You've already done this. I mean, you've already brought it in.
I knew Ken had a real strong concept of where he was going with this project, but I was kind of in the dark. This photograph illustrates perfectly what his concept is.
They did what they could with what they had
Purpose-built.
on site. This is a great merging of our railroad knowledge and Ian's hot rod knowledge and his fabrication knowledge. Sort of what we're recreating. It's a truck from the last days. There are things we have to do, with the motor that we have. This is the actual motor out of the truck. The driveline's the same. Nothing's gonna change. It's just that, that's the train guys. That's us. We're just gonna see. I mean, that's a lot of tonnage to move. As far as Ian goes and the project, if you can make the photo for us or anything close, we're good, we're golden. We're not even gonna paint this thing. I want it to be a rolling tetanus shot.
If you want to look like that,
Yeah.
we can do it for sure.
That's what we want.
Right.
And the good thing is, I found a wheel set out in our yard.
Awesome.
So if
We're
you
ready
want to
to
come
go.
out, then we'll get it over here and we can mock it up.
Look like train wheels, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, they're freight car wheels.
Oh.
What we'll do is we'll do what the railroad does. We'll put it on the turntable.
What the heck do you got going on here? That's like a giant freaking bridge.
Yeah, and you're gonna push it.
From the full tour of this place, the behind the scenes, to driving the train, Ken's like, no, we're not going to just put the wheels over there. You're gonna see how the turntable works, and we're gonna direct it down the lane and then back into the shop as the train would roll. Totally cool.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Look at this, dude.
Ta-da.
Oh yeah.
That looks like the photo. It's a truck on train wheels. This wheel set, as it is appropriate for the vehicle. It totally works, but mating this to the Ford axle is where the challenge begins. Those train wheels are sitting way inboard on this axle. So if you guys can help me out, I need to get rid of these tires, this brake drum, and these wishbones. Ken and his crew are gonna break down and prepare that axle. I got a million other things I'm thinking about to get started with, make this project happen, so, onward and upward. I came in pitching them every idea in the heavens about how radical a train truck we could make. I was like, massive rear tires, all raked down, super slick, maybe like flames on it, who knows? And as we're walking out the door, everybody smiles and Ken's giving me the pat on the back. Yeah, Ian, just make sure it looks like the picture. Look at what they're doing here. This stuff is like world-class, high-end history. They want this rail truck, a work vehicle, to go in with their collection. The thing is, the client always gets what they want, so I have to embrace the challenge of making their dreams reality. What we are doing here is a strict, period-correct piece. I'm pretty honored that they have faith in me as a fabricator to pull that off. This is straight up home-built hot rod stuff, Joe the blacksmith was like, hey, let's put that pickup truck on the tracks. Everybody's having a cocktail in the evening. They're like, well, it's got 4 flat tires. Let's do it. We're gonna face the same gauge issue with the front axle. You know, it has to be narrowed, but before we get into that mechanical aspect, I wanna create the visual statement of the rest of the front of the truck. This fender situation, as much as I love the look of it, it's just not what this project calls for. Glad I brought my pickup truck, because I think these might be coming to my shop. Just like any other project, you know, this thing has a deadline. The museum is having an event, it's Christmas season. They want to include this rig in their Christmas lineup. Time is of the essence. Silver Surfer. It's time for a little parts gathering. I'm looking for a few things. I'm looking for some rods, looking for some angle, I'm looking for some plate. Not only does the stuff have to fit the look, you know, it has to function. It has to feel like it's old and crusty. I mean, it takes a trained eye to really spot what you need. So you got angle iron, flat bar, heavy duty, but that's what we need. We need one of these in here, like a 1/2 inch thick. You know, Ken told me if it's too big to carry, duh, he could just send the forklift over, and I'll grab some of the smaller stock. This is like shoe shopping, you know? What style looks the best, what style fits. This is exactly what's on the drawing. This matches the turnbuckles, this diameter. Driving around this place, I mean, there's potential everywhere. You know, there's a lot of train parts, but there's a lot of other awesome sauce. Oh man, this thing is toast. Got totally burned up. You know, I've done a hot rod fire truck, and this would be an awesome contender. Come on, look at the cool factor. Should have brought the hellhounds. There's talk that there's an 11-foot witch that guards the property. But if you navigate just right, you'll find the leaf springs you're looking for. Next stop, the Enchanted Forest. Take a lot of courage. Those woods can get dark. We'll have to move fast. Run. Let's get the heck out of here. I think we can outrun her. You can feel those eyes looking right through you. You got nothing on us. We're fast. Power of the electric vehicle. This is a dangerous job, you know, in more ways than one. There's 2 leaf springs right there. Oh, this is exactly what we need. See that? They got eyelets on both ends. We got the rods for the front cow catcher. We got leaf springs. Got some angle iron, we got a line on the plate, and we evaded a giant witch. I'd call that a successful outing. You're gonna trip out when you see this. I ordered some really heavy steel plate from the museum guys. You know, they have a forklift and a torch. I sent them my measurements, and it's already here. I measured the outside as wide as those running boards, so once it's on the truck, I got stuff I can work with. Yes. Now we're getting somewhere. Ta-da! For the last part of this adventure, you see this going right in here like that. So this is just the base. You know, this plate, as heavy and complex as it was, is just the start of the whole look of the front end. Right now, it's starting to look like that picture. Well, all right, got a couple things buttoned up here, you know, sort of mocking up what I'm seeing in the photo. The only thing I'm seeing that is gauging the width of these front fenders is that headlight bar. Making sure the proportion is right is the critical element. You know, that's the big challenge of this. First thing I have to accomplish is assembling the headlights, and then I can build the cow catcher. Thing is, this truck came into the museum as a complete vehicle. Ken says the parts are all here, they're just stashed around. Hopefully he has 2 good headlights. Otherwise, it's a knuckle sandwich. Christmas is in full swing in Grizzly Flats. People say it's a complete car. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that. Oh cool, look at this windshield. Headlights. Groovy. That's what I'm talking about. Without those, we're kind of stumped. And then the gas tank and the hood. Perfect. And the light bar, there it is. Stock headlight bar, headlights, hood, gas tank. So yeah, it's a complete truck for sure. Seeing that these parts fit up is a relief, you know, it frees me up to do what I need to. So really the visual aspect is the task here. Headlight bar is pretty much smack center in the grill shell, so I need a riser. I need something to come up off of that flat plate. That headlight bar was made to bolt to that bracket. Look at that angle. I have no way of accurately measuring the photo. It's kind of like a perspective issue. So by fabricating the parts on the vehicle, it gives me a good gauge just visually. You know, if it looks like it, then it's gonna work. Totally looks like a truck, but it's a train. That's what it needed. Gives me a perfect gauge on how wide this front end should be. With the headlights and the grille in place, starting to get a feel for what the dimensions are. The next challenge is figuring out how to make that front cow catcher look as convincing as what I've got so far. This is a little bit of a different workout for me in that typically I'm looking at something and then doing my own thing. Now I'm trying to replicate something. And the challenge is cool, but I still get to do my own thing because I'm choosing the materials and how to go about it. And it's actually a bit of a relief in that there'll be no body work on this. There'll be no sanding. The great thing about this job is that not every car guy gets to build a train. You know, who gets to build a cow catcher? I gotta make this cow catcher catch cows. This is our canvas. It's all about comparison with the picture. You know, before I set up this cow catcher rods, I'm already seeing a difference. The air gap here is looking different than what I'm seeing on that photo. I'll drop it an inch. That is ready for a collision. Now we gotta figure out the layout of these large rods and then bend them. So I'm laying this thing out, trying to do it at an even number, and the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second, this is missing a rod. Look, there's no rod here. This one is clearly at the end of the angle, and there's nothing there. The truck in the photo is missing a rod, one of the vertical uprights. It's not there. I'm building it like the drawing, but just because the photo shows some damage, you know, missing pieces, doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna build it as bad off as that vehicle was. That's one. I don't want it to look damaged. Something don't look right. Yeah, the whole character of this truck is this front cow catcher. It's way out of proportion. Okay, here it is. So I'm looking at this truck because I'm this tall. I'm looking right in line with the top of the windshield. This viewpoint is looking at the truck like this. I'm trying to judge the photo by the shadow that's cast on it and the angle that the lens was set. You know, I'm standing here at 6'2" looking at the thing. It's a completely different angle from the way the camera was positioned. I think I'm gonna have to take a little artistic license on this. Don't tell anyone. This will be our little secret. I really want that cow catcher to be a little more prominent. Let me raise the truck up 4 inches. This is all just winging it. There's no hard measurements on anything. It's just gotta feel like it looks. Yeah, so I raised it up a little bit and that's what we needed. So obviously, according to the picture, these things aren't straight. They're pitched forward in a V formation, ready to catch cows. So we gotta make these look like that. First step, set up the acetylene torch. Pow! A nice hot stick. Put it right there and give it a bend. This is old school metalwork, you know. It takes fire to bend metal. That's what I'm talking about. Full custom blacksmith. This cow catcher's really taking shape, you know. It may be the best cow catcher I've ever made. I got one more idea that'll really sell it. I got the front of this cow catcher in a pretty good spot. They were saying that they're fine with this crashed model, but I just can't bring myself to do that. I'll make it a little bit nicer, and then if they want, we'll smash it. But I gotta get this lower portion on to really sell the concept. The last element of the cow catcher is this lower beam you see in the photo. The front end modification is the primary visual thing, you know, that takes you into that train truck experience. You know, there's no roadmap. It's just look at it. It's like it's kind of kicked up. It's definitely been in a collision. It's definitely been used. And, you know, you're really just using all of your senses. As much as it is fabrication, it's total art. Who put these frickin' train tracks in the shop? They're in the way of everything. Okay, same thing on this side, just a mirror image. So last step, I may do more like this, but that photo showing these rods coming through, actually being bolted together, and I don't have that luxury. So I came up with the oldest trick in the book, the old fake rod scenario. Sometimes tricks are exactly what you need to make things convincing. You know, this hardware is all bunk, but I gotta make it look like it counts. Me coming from a sculptural background, I worked in an art foundry, so we were doing bronze castings of literal mechanical things. And typically there was hardware presented, but you know, in a bronze casting, it's all one thing. So we would fake welding nuts, screw heads, rivets, etc. to these sculptures. This is basically the same idea. So instead of trying to source out some old hardware that works, which probably doesn't exist, I'm just gonna put these on, and hey, it looks like threaded rods. Check. This thing is looking cool, just like it would have been on the rail line back in the day. Now with this in place, I want to trim the fenders and just get the whole look of the front end cemented. And you can see from the start, you know, I started with that massive plate and just tailored it to fit the dimensions of the real truck. Really satisfying to get this part of it squared away. This is the aesthetic I was really going for. You know, it looks like the photo. The next challenge is getting these train wheels under the rig. The next part of this project is getting these train wheels to literally mount to the forward rear axle. This is gonna be a pretty big issue. I moved the body over to the side. I got a couple ideas on how to get these two pieces to mate up. There's train parts all over the place. So I'm cruising around the little buggy they gave me and I come upon this other wheel set. In the past, what someone's done is taken this truck rim and welded it to the train wheel, which is great. That's a step in the right direction. The downside is this bolt pattern doesn't match the Ford at all. These don't just bolt on, but I have a plan. So this rim is actually perfectly smooth, but you see these bolts, which is good, and then there's a collar that extends back to the actual train wheel. My plan is to simply make a wheel adapter spacer using the Model AA truck rim and these already modified train wheels. This isn't just a pile of stuff here. This is a jig. You know, this is science. So I've come up with a blueprint, set the train wheels up with these parallel bars and the axle in there, and you can clearly see that the truck axle is way wider. We need to be at this distance, and that gives me my dimensions. Science. I think we should go over to the machine shop and do something scientific. Plan is to get out of this building and into a better one, a little more appropriate for what we're about to do. Like everything else that's huge around here, they have a giant machine shop with everything we'll need to do this. Based on my calculations, I had the fellas gather up some of this big tubing. This is 10-inch diameter tube. This is gonna be our offset for the wheel adapter. But one thing I know is the center of this rim is in the wrong place. I gotta take it out, and this is our dimension. Unique, like me. That could be said, it's a great statement about this place. We're all here because we're not all there. That's exactly the piece I need. The whole thing is that when this thing's rolling, you don't want it to be slopping around, you know? It's gotta be fit up properly. All right, so let's take a tour of this fantastic facility. The thing about my invitation here is it's like all access permitted, you know? So I've been scoping this room out and it has all the tools I need. Man, if I had this shop, I don't know. I would finally build that UFO, I think. Sheet metal shear, 10-foot sheet metal brake, massive drill presses, 1, 2, 3 lathes. Look at that drill press. I can't stand it. But this is where the magic happens. This building is designed for heavy metal, and I can't wait to get cutting. For those not in the know, a lathe will come in many shapes and sizes, but basically what it does is it spins you right round, baby. Right round, like a record, baby. Right round, round, round. This lathe is gonna do exactly what I need. It's gonna make a perfect fit up between the wheel hub, the spacer, and then the new train rim. So in the end, see, instead of that big torch cut surface, you have that nice, perfectly machined, centered disc. I can't weld to this rusty surface. See, I made it so it's darn close, right? It's just about perfect. So now I'm gonna put this tube up in the lathe and cut a nice machine finish on this. These two, that perfect fit. The whole thing is this fits together like a puzzle. So once you get one piece set, you put the other part on, cut it to match, and then assemble it. All right, this next step is some heavy metal. So fortunately, I have an assistant. Moving these wheels around is like a four-man project. Fortunately, they have this big gantry that swivels, so I could pick the piece up right off of the cart and put it on the table. So what you don't want to do is stand underneath that thing. These fins have got to come off. This ring has to mate up with that surface. So just as we set up the top side of this, we set up the bottom side of that. Coming off of this, we're measuring down to the rim face. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm just gonna tack it in a few places, put it on the axle and test it. You know, once I got it welded up, put it back on the crane, carted it over to the shop. Fortunately, my friend Jeff is there to help me muscle this wheel into place. All right, that's that. Getting this thing on and in place, you know, I kind of wanted to see it roll. You know, that's what this thing does. Now it's the moment of truth. Like butter. This is a big part of the build. You know, I've been sweating this from the onset. This was the uncharted territory, and here it is, a sigh of relief. It won't be fully true and tested until we go down the rails, but this is the first step in solving the problem of the vehicle not having any wheels. So that's a good thing. We got 2 wheels, 2 more to go. I'm gonna do the same thing to the wheel on the other side, but we really have to figure out this front axle, you know? That's a whole different style. The train has not left the station. You're getting down to the end of the road, or rails as it may be. We got all hands on deck. The whole Grizzly Flats crew is here. The mechanics are on hand. Everybody's pitching in to get this thing finished. Looks pretty loose, but we're making progress. Time is of the essence. The whole task with this project was to get the truck to look like the photo. What I need to do is get this front axle in place and get the truck on the rails. The whole crew is on lunch break, and while that's happening, my lovely assistant and I have the ability to get this thing on the wheels. This has to look like the picture. So once I got all the machine work done, I put these wheel caps on and weld them in place. So now it simulates a solid wheel. All my calculations proved solid on the rear end. The wild card at this point is the front axle. It's come in late last night, and now I need to figure out how to attach it to this rig. The shop up past Fresno, California called Hillcrest, and they custom machined this front axle. Just looking at it was a relief to see that it was already engaged. You know, it was as wide as the track needed to be, so no modifications. I got my buddy Jeff on hand. He's gonna help me get this thing in place. So looking at the picture, the thing that's determining our proportion is this shackle in the front is looking like it's attached just about where the headlight is. Found these leaf springs out on the back 40. I'm thinking about the same thing as I've done through the whole truck. You know, scavenger hunt, grabbed every part I could find, that looks old and looks like it fits the photo. So we don't have U-bolts, so we're just setting up a series of 2 plates that will grab this box. The thing about springs like this, as it stretches, it gets longer. So this shackle always makes it go back into place. It's kind of like an inchworm. You can see this hanger here? That's coming way down, and the spring is actually up here. So I'm gonna have to create this leg that comes down. I need to make sure that this thing rides straight on the rail. So I'm measuring everything I can, just as I would, you know. We don't have a chassis jig. I'm trying to do it off of the frame, upside down. This is yoga for mechanics. I gotta say, that's pretty well hung. I always try to keep things lighthearted, you know. I'm shucking and jiving, talking the talk. Sometimes the assistants, you know, this is his first thing, you know, and I'm talking about deadlines as well as making jokes and keeping it lighthearted. Taking some caffeine to steady my nerves. Some people are a little bit more concerned than I am, apparently. That is a good cup of coffee. Drop her down. Pink. I try to just keep myself as focused as possible, and who knows what's coming out of my mouth while it's happening. It's ready to rock. The only question is, does it roll? What's not to like about that? Oh, it's such a victory. I gotta say, just getting this thing on 4 wheels, I feel good.
Definitely works. It's a train truck.
Let's get everybody in here and slam this thing together. There's still a ton to do. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing this on the tracks. You know, just like everything in the shop, when it's outside, it's a whole different thing. We got this train truck thing out the doors, and it's looking good. I gotta say, it's pretty fulfilling to see this thing sitting there on the tracks. Their mission of me following the photograph, I think I accomplished it. The use of all the old parts, you know, the scavenger hunts, everything lends itself to this look. The way all the fabrication is, you know, everything is torch cut, it's rusted, it looks like it could have come out of the mine. When you stand back and look at it, you really get the vibe, you know?
It's a gift. It's such a joy to have this here at Grizzly Flats. You really, really did a terrific job.
For using absolutely, I mean, no new material besides the front truck, right? That's it. Everything is out of the yard. It worked out great. The last hours of this were just details. I found a bunch of scrap wood, made the bed look like the photo, a couple other things in the front suspension. I loved that dump bed so much, so I retained that exactly as it was, but it's all custom. It's all narrowed out, C-notched, and super strong.
You hot rodded it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
100%.
Oh man, that is so cool. So basically the back of the truck now is hot rod technology and railroad technology together. He's made this fusion, which is amazing.
I'm super proud of it, man. It's nothing I expected walking in the door.
The main thing for Ian was to come in and get him to do the fab work and match the photo, and he did it exactly. And it's wonderful. Just the look on the crew's face. They've been crushing that motor and transmission and everything. There's been working a lot of hours and everything else, you know, and you know, it just, The motor's completely rebuilt, transmission's rebuilt, everything's all set. We had a faulty head gasket. And when you're running with Ian, it just takes one thing and you start to drop back.
You know, working with any antique thing, there's a million things that can go wrong. So they had an issue with the head gasket last night. We're gonna have our test run with the assistance of old Smokeless. I'm getting in that thing. This is an antique vehicle, so it's got all the clunks and screeches and everything. We are on the rails. Pretty interesting. It's a very tactile experience. There's no steering, no brakes, no throttle. You're just cruising. Man, this thing rides like it's on rails. I can't believe how it handles. It's kind of like having a chauffeur. Right turn, Jeeves, right turn. Just having you burn some calories for me, man. I did all the work this week. Somebody fix me a beverage. All's well in the world, you know. Did a couple of revolutions on the turnstile, and it's time to go back to the shack.
Will there be anything else, Mr. Roussel?
Take me home, Jeeves.
Country road. Hold still, don't go anywhere.
My takeaway from this is steam engines. I am in love with them. Now you walk into the museum, so you see people dressed in their uniforms and they're really being the part of the whole train thing, and now you understand why. It is like super rich in history, and that's what the passion is.
I think he's got the bug now. I think he's got the train bug. Ian said he'll be back. My favorite part of this whole build has been watching Ian work, you know? For me, I got to be the tourist in the strange land of Ian. It was really, really cool.
All right, well, my job is done here. Put my cape on. And,
Almost!
Oh, wait a second.
Hang on 1 second.
But wait, there's more. Well, it is Christmas, right?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. Let's see what we got.
Let's see what you got.
Let's see what you got.
Oh, man, of course. What better than that? Right on.
For the house, man.
Oh, yes, exactly. Lo and behold, what would you expect as a gift from a bunch of train fanatics? That is rad.
Thank you, buddy.
That's totally awesome. Thanks, Jingles. Merry Christmas. Thanks, fellas. That's awesome.
Thank you,
Cool,
brother.
man. Right on.
Thank you so much.